Hello and welcome to the Very Wool Podcast. My name is Diana Hawthorne and you can find me online as Delaware Spinster. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some WIPs today. I'm at sort of a stopping and reflecting point on a few things and I'm excited about the progress I'm making. But full disclosure, I have no finished objects today. I know that makes me sound like a broken record. I often have no finished objects and I'm okay with that. So we're going to get started with WIPs right away because what I'm wearing is actually a WIP that I'm sort of trying on and working with right now. Okay. So this is something I've been working on for a while and I've been sort of thinking about and trying to figure out what's the best way to use up some of this older stash yarn, and that's kind of how this came about. So what I am doing is making sort of a cardigan version, like a sort of casual cardigan version of the Sacred Woods pattern from Janine Myska from her book, Modern Crochet Sweaters. She has some beautiful sweaters in this book, and I'll show you sort of her picture of this. Yeah. So she has this Sacred Woods side split sweater that has a crew neck, which for me, I'm not really into a crew neck, but I like that this is a simple sort of bulky yarn, a double crochet mostly garment. So I'm heavily borrowing from the way that she started this pattern, although my gauge is admittedly a little bit different, and then I kind of went off book from there. So I still want to acknowledge that I did use some of her numbers and sort of copied her setup, because otherwise, I don't want you to think this is a pattern that I'm gonna, sometimes I improvise things and I, in this case, sort of am starting from the pattern. So I think it's worth acknowledging that, also because I really like her book and I am going to make some of her patterns from the book at some point. But anyway, that's how it started, was as a Sacred Woods. So it is color changing yarn, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment, but I just want to kind of stand up and show you sort of what I've got going on here. So I started from this side. I'm going to attach this. I fully intend to. But I started from this side and then went across, scooped down across the back and sort of changed, I didn't go the full way across so that I could wear it as a nice open back sweater. And then I came back down here and went across this way, and I just came off of that end. I just finished that end and realized that basically I made this back scoop way too low. So I had thought about picking up and ribbing the neck with actual knit ribbing, because crochet ribbing to me, I feel like it doesn't pull in the same way. It looks nice, it's fine, but since I'm a knitter too, I tend to just combine knit ribbing at this point with crochet. But I realized I had this so wide that, which is my fault, because I looked at the way that Janine did it with her pullover, and I was like, oh, that neck's not going to be big enough for me. So I wasn't really thinking about how much it would stretch, how heavy it would be, and I just went really wide in the back, which is totally fine. I think it's going to be more cohesive to pull it back together with this new yarn. So I just picked up, not really picked up, but like crocheted across the whole way. And I've now I'm in the middle of my second row. So really, I've got a long way to go. I'm probably going to do 4 or 5 rows around, doing decreases at the neck so that it kind of pulls in and lays flat, and then makes it a little bit wider. And I may not do ribbing at all. I just knew I didn't want ribbing to be 5 inches wide. So at any rate, that's what I'm working on right now. I do think I'm still going to keep the side splits, and I'm going to keep it, it's like a drop shoulder. It's got a lot of ease. This is supposed to be a casual sort of around the house garment for me, because I often kind of wrap myself in like a crochet poncho or Ruana or something. I have a few that I really like. So anyway, so I was just trying to use some yarn that I really like, but don't like knitting with and haven't been using for a while. So let's talk about the yarn a little bit. So what I'm doing here is holding multiple colors together, marled as I do. So this is sort of a common thing for me to do, but I'm using Hobbii Twister. This is a cotton acrylic blend. This is yarn that has been in my stash for a long time. I used to buy whenever this was on sale, I would buy a bunch of them. My husband, as sweet as he is, got me some of these for Christmas a few years back. So this was like before I was really into wool and before I was knitting a lot. So I was mostly crocheting. I made some crochet garments with these before. And at this point, I don't really have the patience to crochet with like a 3mm hook and this is pretty much a fingering weight. I think they call it a sport weight, but it is fine. So I don't really have the patience for that right now. I will knit a fingering weight garment, and as I think you may already know, that takes me forever. So to crochet a fingering weight garment, I'll get back to it eventually, but it's not, crocheting with the cotton acrylic is not as comfortable for me as knitting with wool or silk, right? So that's why it's kind of different. But what I'm doing is I'm taking a couple different colors and I'm doing basically, so you can see this is like 4-ply. Maybe you can see that, maybe you can't. I mean, if I move my face. So I'm chain plying, which is like a giant crochet version basically. So to get 3 of the one, and then just holding 1 of the other as the contrast color. So if you look at any part of this, it's 3 of the one ball and 1 of the other, if that makes any amount of sense. But it's just a way for me to marl colors together and have a sort of slow gradient and the gauge that I wanted for this, because I wanted it to be sort of like a weighted blanket feel. Because again, this is like mostly an around the house kind of a garment. So I just wanted it to be kind of, it's super soft yarn, and yeah, I'm liking the way that it kind of drapes. I think it'll be cute once it's finished, but right now it's still sort of up in the air. So the colors that are going to come next after I finish that skein that I was working with, I'm going to be using this one, which I'm probably going to start just from the light purple and sort of take out the dark purple at the center, since I'd used this for something else. So this kind of shade of purple, and I'm probably going to be kind of finishing with that. I have a lot of this one because I had these Twister solids, which was something that Hobbii Yarn, this is from Hobbii Yarn, something that they do as well. So at any rate, it's going to have a lot more of the light purple. I think that's going to kind of bring it together. I don't know if I'm doing the sleeves or not. I had intended to have it be a drop shoulder and do sleeves. And maybe it's because I started it when it was colder and now it's gotten super hot here. And I'm kind of starting to think like maybe I just want it to be drop shoulder, you know, again, a little bit wider, closer, so that it overlaps in the front, and then not do sleeves. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. This is one of those things where I've gone so far from the pattern at this point that I'm sort of just seeing what works. And I know I tried it on backwards to see, like, did I make a mistake? Should I have just made the cardigan? And I did not feel like it was flattering at all, and I didn't feel like I would wear it out. And that was my issue with the cardigan. And a bulky gauge looks really cute on Janine Myska. I don't feel so confident in that. So, so for me, it's not I didn't want it to be just an all over crochet garment at this gauge and this level of bulk. But for it to be sort of wrapped around me works really well. So my goal is I don't want it falling off my shoulders as it is right now. My goal is to have it a little bit more finished up at the top, and then I'm going to attach the sides for at least some distance, and see how I feel about whether I want to do even a short sleeve or not. You can see the way that it sits open. It has, because it's a drop shoulder, it has a nice amount of sleeve. If I even just attach that, that's a pretty nice short sleeve. So I may leave it just like that. So anyway, so that is one garment that I am working on, that I'm sort of pretty far along. Something like this works up pretty quickly. Dealing with the yarn and undoing knots is really the biggest expenditure of my time. It's not even the crocheting, it's kind of the chain plying the yarn to attach it together. Well, not to attach it, but to set it up so that I have that nice marl going, which I am enjoying working with. But sometimes I get a knot and then I spend what feels like an inordinate amount of time on a knot. I don't know if you do that too. That is something that's just kind of part of life as a knitter crocheter for me. I feel like sometimes there's a knot. It's okay. It's gonna be fine. So anyway, so I spent a lot of this morning working through a knot, which is why that's fresh in my mind. But I like the way that's coming out. I love having a gradient of colors. It's a lot more interesting to me than just doing a big garment like this in one color. And I already have a big garment like this in one color. So, anyway, so I'm enjoying the sort of jewel tones that I'm getting through that. And I do still have several twister yarns in my stash, so I may still end up doing a lighter crochet garment down the road. But this was kind of what I felt like doing, and anyway, I'm enjoying it. I like doing like a bulky crochet project. Speaking of bulky crochet project, I just remembered, thought about the fact that one of my colleagues is pregnant. And a couple of years ago, when I made my last baby blanket, everybody in our department, I was like, I think like people are like done having babies, and I don't have any friends that are still having babies. I was like, oh God, I think I'm done with baby blankets for a while. Because it felt like I was making one or two a year for a while, like late 20s, early 30s for me. And then I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought, I care about this person enough that I want her to have a baby blanket, and it's sort of a gesture that I've done for enough other people that are mutual friends and that we work closely with. I wouldn't want her to feel left out or hear from somebody else who maybe doesn't have a ton of tact, and that's possible in my department, that they got a baby blanket a couple years ago and she didn't. So anyway, I hope she appreciates it, but I did feel I wanted to make this gift for her, and I also had a little bit, honestly, a feeling of obligation, like I've done that for everybody else that I know and care about that's having a baby. And in this case, it's not her first baby, which it's her first baby that I'm working with her and friends with her, and she's having, if that makes sense. And I know with some of my other colleagues and friends, I've given them a baby blanket, and their like 2 or 3 year old child takes it as a gift instead of giving it to the baby, and that is perfect, totally fine. And you know, I think sometimes older siblings like to have something like that. So this may be one of those situations. I don't know. They're not finding out the gender of the baby before the birth. And she has a young female child. So I just figured I have to kind of be neutral in case she wants to give it, to save it for the baby. But anyway, so I wanted to do a sort of stash dive to make just a simple, I tried 10 different things and settled on a granny square. Okay, so it's going to be a granny square baby blanket. I thought about a lot of different things, and I felt like I have to be in the mood to be able to actually finish it. And I love a granny square. So this is how it's coming out so far. So it is 2 different yarns that were in my stash, and I do not have a ton of cotton or acrylic anymore, but I know not everybody likes wool, and not everybody wants to deal with a wool blanket for their baby. She's not exactly like a knitter crocheter kind of person. So anyway, so I'm using, this is Lion Brand Comfy Cotton Blend. Back in the day I got a ton of this. It's discontinued now, but this is their chai latte colorway, which I really love. I think I still have a bunch of this. I had like 6 skeins. This is still about a half of a one right now. I had planned on making a sweater for myself in this. So at this point, because I'm going to use as much as I need to make the blankie, whatever, as big as I want, I'm probably only going to be able to make a t-shirt for myself with it. That's totally fine. I do wear my garments that I've made with Comfy Cotton Blend. Again, I really liked this yarn. It's a little bit splitty when you're knitting with it, so I preferred crocheting with it. But you can see it's the, every other row, it's this sort of speckle. And then I thought it would be really cute to use one of these darn twisters again. So I'm using this one. Of course, you can see it's kind of hollowed out because I've been using it, started with the white. And then the white, you know, slowly one ply, this is 4 plies, 1 ply at a time changes to the next color. So it goes to this kind of orangey, which is not my favorite color, but then you get kind of a pinky salmon, and then you get this nice gray blue, and I just feel like they go well together. I don't know. So I'm not, like, I would not have chosen just the orange, but again, I think when the actual thing is done, I think it's going to look really good fading out to that blue. So I'm liking how it's looking enough that I am going to continue with this. I'm happy with it. So you can see, so here's another example, maybe I can make this more clear, of how I'm holding this fingering weight yarn like 3 ply. So, so as I'm going along, I just sort of make it, like make a crochet chain and do that. And then that's how I end up holding it 3 together. Okay. So anyway, I don't know if everybody else does things like that, but I just figured, because this is a worsted weight and this was this almost fingering weight, when I hold it 3 ply, then this ends up being just a little bit more bold, but still being able to comfortably be crocheted with a 5mm hook. When I was holding it single, it looked ridiculous. When I was holding it double, it wasn't quite right and it looked too loose. I'd rather it be tight and be like it's still super drapey, super soft. So both of these are cotton and acrylic blends. They're very different, but again, I think it's going to be really nice with the color changing yarn. I was just going to use the Comfy Cotton Blend, the chai latte, and that would have been adorable, but it would have been like super plain and expected. And when you're already doing a granny square or a classic pattern, it just felt like it needed something a little bit more special. So that's why I'm doing the color changing yarn. Of note, I am doing a lazy method where I feel like the right thing to do would be cutting the yarn every row. And if I'm doing a granny square that's, you know, 6 different colors, 6 rows, I would do that. And that's really annoying. And that's why I'm not progressing on some of my other granny square projects that are, you know, sitting in a bin up there, because boy, it's a lot of ends to do, especially in the first part. But with this, because I'm effectively alternating one yarn and then the other, I am doing a little thing where I'm just carrying it up the back. And I bet, I mean, I can point it out to you, but like, I don't think you really even notice that. So what I do is I just use a pin and sort of tie off a little chain of this one, go ahead and do the other one. And once I get around and attach, then I'm going to pull this back up, take it off the pin and start crocheting with it. So then you're going to see that little tiny thing there. And if you're really looking, you can definitely see the bridge here of this white. So what? I don't think it matters. I've just decided, like, I'm not being that fussy about it. And I think it's really hard for me to look back and see some of the rows. It's pretty obvious, like that white stripe that I kind of have going. But I honestly think even if you're holding the blanket backwards, it looks pretty darn good. You can see I haven't tucked in this tail. That's more obvious, but So I'm proud of myself for not being incredibly fussy about this, because there was a time when I would have been upset that like, oh no, the back of a baby blanket, which is probably going to get like spit up and food on it, the back of it has this sort of trail of stitches. I think it matters less and less each round, because when you've got this many rounds, it's just one little spot. So anyway, I don't think that anybody would care who's not a crocheter, and I feel like it still looks perfect in the front, and that's what matters. So if anything matters, I think what matters is it's soft and it's washable, if we're being realistic. So anyway, so those are 2 crochet projects that I'm working on right now. And I know I've shown you some crochet projects before that then haven't popped back up, because sometimes I'm working on something and think, nope, it's not working out the way I thought, or I'm not enjoying it the way I thought I would. So I'm just going to put it to the side. And obviously this baby blanket is now a thing that has a little bit of a timeline. So, so I'm trying to knock this out in the next month or so, which I think is very realistic. I started it within the week, and I have this much of a granny square already. So that's sort of high priority for me. And the other crochet, sort of Sacred Woods cardigan, as I'm calling it, is higher priority because I think I'd wear it during the summer. So, okay. So I wanted to talk to you again about my Scotch Broom. You may have seen a picture on my Instagram, and if not, then I'm going to sort of talk to you about it. So basically, I'm just going to turn this right side out. I got to a point where I finished both the front and back lace panel. Okay, so Scotch Broom from Wool and Pine is a knitting pattern that has this what's it called? Broomstick knitting lace. Okay, so you can make broomstick lace with crochet or with knitting, and you do it pretty differently with knitting from how I've done it for crochet. But at any rate, you get this broomstick lace and you do these 2 panels, and then you attach them under the shoulder and or under the underarm, and start doing just knitting in the round. Okay, and that's basically the gist of the pattern. It's a lovely pattern. They teach you how to do the lace with these videos, which is really nice. Wool and Pine has really helpful videos. So it's got an I-cord top edge, which then you end up mattress seaming. I have not done that yet. I did sort of a mock, just quick mattress seam, so I could try this on and show you where I'm at. So the nice thing about this, the lace is really enjoyable, and then by the time you're tired of doing the lace, you get to start just knitting. So, so I'm going to kind of show you where I'm at. Now, my situation is that I do not have a ton of this pink yarn that I used for the top. It was a one-off, like a Potluck skein from Hedgehog Fibres of their Oh So Fine Cashmere. It is oh so fine. It's super soft, super nice. I don't think I'm going to keep the shoulders this wide. This was just, again, I just did a little mock. I used the tails to kind of attach it. I think I'm going to combine it more like that, but you can see it's drop shoulder. There are no sleeves that are done on this, and I'm not going to add any. And then basically the garment itself, you start to do stockinette and go down. You can see I have like nothing there. This is basically nothing. But what I was trying to figure out was how much would I need of this yarn in order to finish the body, based on how many grams it takes to go around once or twice, and what that depth would be, like what the row height is. And there's no way I have enough, basically. It's very unlikely that I would be able to do any length that is reasonable. Like, it would be very cropped. So I didn't trust that. It's really hard with this Oh So Fine Cashmere. It's so light that even with my scale that goes down to 1/10 of a gram, it was hard to tell. Like, I would do one round and it would say it was 1 gram. And then I did the next round and it actually, the weight was higher. It made no sense. So I tried a few times to do that and it just was not feeling accurate. So I decided to stripe it with other yarn. So this is the Oh So Fine Cashmere. I still have like a third, almost half of a skein left, but that was not enough. So I decided to use some little stash mini skeins that I have that are merino from an indie dyer they're from a Halloween mini skein set, a Halloween advent. I think it's Dragonflight Yarns, which I know there are a lot of things that kind of sound like that, but I will double check and put that in the notes. So I found these two in my stash and they just, I think, really go well with the pink in terms of coordinating color and because there are little black and little green flecks. So I had considered using a bright orange as well, and then it started to look too Halloween-y, I think. And it's just, I love that there is bright orange in this, but it wasn't standing out as a spring color palette the way that these enhanced this. So anyway, I'm doing these little micro stripes. What I decided to do, I started with doing 2 by 2, and then I figured out if I do 2 of this and then 3 of the pink, so it's like 2 green, 3 pink, 2 gray, 3 pink, 2 green. If I do that, it made sense to me, and here is why. It was a lot easier for me to get an accurate weight, or what I think is an accurate weight, with the green and gray stripes. And I figured out that they take 1.2 grams to do the full circumference, to do one row. So this was a yarn, the merino. I think it's just 100% merino. It's a single ply, so superwash merino. It was like a 437 yards to 100 grams. So average grist for like a fingering weight yarn. Where this cashmere was more like 650 yards for 100 grams. So, I'm realizing now it may be, no, that's right. Okay, sorry, I'm right. I know I'm right. I know I did this math off camera. So, so at any rate, so I was thinking that 2 of that is equal to 3 of this, basically. It's basically 1.5 times as many yards. So the grist is 50% different. So at any rate, so I did this math and I figured out that like the row height is a little bit different too. So it kind of looks more natural having 3 to 2 than it did doing 2 to 2. I started that and it looked, the pink was really diminished by that. So because it is not a fingering, it's kind of like a heavier lace. So at any rate, I decided that since it is, in terms of how it would be at 100 grams, it is a 2 to 3 difference. I would just stripe it 2 to 3. If I get to the point at the bottom where I'm running out of these yarns, I do have some pink in my stash that I think would work just fine to finish out the bottom, like to do, I would do a wider ribbing if I had to, like a taller section of ribbing than what's called for if I'm running out of yarn. But I really feel pretty confident based on, it's a little bit more accurate. The math is a little bit more accurate when I have 12 rows done than when I had 1 row at a time. So in terms of the weight of the yarns, I'm still sort of keeping track, and I think I'm gonna be fine. So, so anyway, so it is going to add something to the design that's not meant to be in the design. It was supposed to just be this top and then just plain stockinette, and now I'm adding these stripes, but I think they're going to be cute. And honestly, I'm not that much of a light pink pastel girly that I think that it matters. So I like that it's going to be a little bit different, and honestly, I'm just embracing the fact that I only had one of these skeins. It's Potluck. I'm not going to get it again. So, yeah. So anyway, I actually kind of like it off the shoulder, but I know that's not going to be as practical, so I'm going to pull it up a little bit. It doesn't have short row shaping in the back or anything. And it would throw off the stripes if I were to do that now, because I thought about that too after doing the underarm to do some short rows in the back. But I don't want to throw off the stripes, and I don't feel like dealing with that. So honestly, if I did the cashmere because I thought if there's something that's going to be across my neck, it might as well be nice and soft. But I don't even like the way that looks. Sorry that I just keep staring at it. So you know what? I think I'm basically going to leave it like this. I'm not one who care. I'm going to wear probably undershirts under this unless I'm just like, I don't know, on date night or something. So I feel like it's going to be totally fine in terms of where the lace sits, and I'm not one who cares if my bra straps are showing. So I think it's going to be like this. I think I'm going to wear an undershirt like I am right now. I'll probably wear a whiter undershirt because the black is a little bit jarring, although it sets off the lace nicely. So yeah, I don't know. The more I'm wearing it, the more I feel like it's right like this. I might just go a little bit higher, but I am going to keep it nice and open because I don't like that feel of having a really tight boat neck there. All right. So that is the next one that I'm working on, and forgive me for just kind of trying things on for you today, but I thought it's more helpful anyway to talk about when it's actually on me. Okay, and of course you can see I used try it on tubing, and then I used a piece that was too small, so I had to keep the needles in there too. Super fun, but it works. So loving how this is coming out. Super soft. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to take me another few weeks. Like, I'll have it done for August, but will I have it done for the end of June? No, I don't think I will. I think it's going to be another few weeks because once I'm in this sort of stockinette section, like, I'm working on it, but I'm working on other things too. I'm starting to dabble with some new things and pull some old things out of my stash. So this is one of the older things that I'm starting to work on again. I had started a derecho. I'll show you sort of the front of this pattern. I got some yarn and started a derecho a while ago. This is an Allison Green pattern you may have seen before, this sort of t-shirt. And I think it's a Barocco pattern. I think it's supposed to be with Remix Light, which I like and I have in my stash, but I found I started using this, which is Ito Kainu. It's I may be mispronouncing that. It's a really fine, like, I think they consider it a lace weight raw silk preparation, so it's super fun. So I started marling that together. And I'm going to have sort of a gradient, a marled gradient, which is exactly what you probably expect of me at this point. That's what I do. So I'll try on the yoke for you so you can see, but basically I started with the that brown that I showed you and the red together. And then I did half of the brown, half of the red, half of the brown, and changed out to this orange with the red. And after that, I'm going to go to the yellow with the orange. So you'll see, so you can kind of see where it changes there. And I think it's going to be subtle. I was like questioning myself a little bit, but I think I like it. So I like the feel of the fabric. There are short rows that shape the back of the neck, and they do sit right if you actually block them. Right now it's got this garter collar and it's got these short rows, and it's not blocked. I haven't blocked in a while, so you can kind of start to see it. It looks a little bit jarring there where it changes to orange, but I think when I actually have the whole shirt, it's going to be fine. So anyway, so it's going to stripe to that orange, and then it'll go orange and yellow. And the sort of big question mark for me is, how far is it going to go? Am I going to get to the point where I have to do yellow and green, or preferably for the second half of the yellow, can I come back to the brown and keep it sort of like a, I don't know, warm rainbow kind of a thing going on? yeah, I think it's going to be fine. I like the feeling of the fabric, and it certainly has like a big enough neck and whatnot. So, and I've got gauge with this. So anyway, so I got to like here and then put it in a box and didn't work on it for almost a year. So I brought it back out and I'm getting further along with it. I'm done with it starts with a circular yoke with these yarn over increases. I'm done with a circular yoke. It's got like garter ridge bumps, depending on your size, a different number of them. At this point, it has raglan shaping for the lower part, so that's why you may see I've got some like stitch markers there, and I'm just starting. I've done like one row of the raglan increases. So at any rate, I like the way this feels. I think it's going to be super soft, super light. I know that it will lay flat after being blocked. I know it's going to like stretch a little bit too, because it is 100% silk. And yeah, I think it's gonna be fine. I think it's gonna be, I don't know. Would I have been happy just doing the red and the brown as one color the whole way? Yes, in hindsight, I probably would have done that. But this yarn was on sale at a yarn store that doesn't exist anymore. And so I got a rainbow of it because I love marled projects and I was planning on doing just a whole thing. And then I realized that I will not need the entire rainbow for this shirt. And I didn't want to use like half of each skein just to do a more clear rainbow. So I'm just going with it. I think it will be comfortable and it's soft, and ultimately I'm happy to do like a color blocked or widely striped shirt. So so even though when I started this orange, or when I got close to the orange, I was kind of getting discouraged, and that's why I kind of put it away. I was thinking like, I'm not gonna buy more of this yarn specifically when I have so much of it. But I was really questioning the decision to stripe it. And at this point, I think the color blocking is going to be cute. I think it's just going to take a minute to kind of come together. So, so that's one of the projects that I kind of pulled out of the vault and have been working on, which feels good. And it's also probably not going to be finished this summer. I'm not super focused on it, but it is a project that I've been working on. So yeah, so I've got a couple of shirts that are sort of on their way. So of course I cast on something new because that's what I do. Anytime that I'm making progress, I cast on something new. So this was also using yarn in my stash, I'm not really doing a stash down, but I've been buying more yarn. So, so it also feels really good to use something that's a little bit older. And I've wanted to make a very V-neck raglan from Jessie Made Designs for a while. So I've just started making this and I'm really loving. I was desperate to use this yarn, which is Kid Seta, some sort of a mohair silk. I'll put it in the description, but I know it's called Kid Seta and I just can't remember the brand. And it's just this tan color, and I got it for something else, of course, but then I used something else from that project. So basically I had 1,200 yards of this or 1,300 yards of this, and if I'm making a very V-neck raglan, I needed 1,200 yards of DK weight. So if you're holding mohair double with something else, in this case is a sport weight yarn, then you get gauge. I got gauge. And so anyway, so I'm loving how this fabric is coming out. So this is Nomad Latte, which is 100% alpaca. It's sort of a sport weight, but it's sort of a fine sport weight. It's very drapey. And you know what, I just lied to you. It's not 100% alpaca. I don't remember the exact ratio. It's alpaca and merino. So it does have some memory. This is one that's not 100% baby alpaca that I remember. I'll write that in. But anyway, this is something, Nomad is one of the undyed yarn sources that I use. So I dyed this to be sort of a sagey, It's more green than it's looking on camera, but it's kind of like a sagey green blue. Because of the alpaca in this, it dyes kind of lightly, like not as vibrant as plain merino or superwash merino. So at any rate, I dyed this specifically to make a very V-neck raglan with this. That was the whole thing, was I've got this. What do I want to go with it? What do I not have in my wardrobe but would still look nice on me? And I dyed this. And then it sat in my stash for a couple months. And at some point I was talking to my husband about this pattern and I showed him these yarns. I was like, I don't know, should I do this? And he was like, do it. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm just starting the you cast on. It's a raglan shape, but you start with doing short rows before combining it as a V-neck. So anyway, so I think it's gonna be really pretty. I think it's a little bit different from the stuff that I have. I'm actually committing to using these two yarns the whole way, so it's gonna be a solid colored garment. I am working on several solid colored garments right now. Although, can you really say it's solid when it's marled and it's hand dyed? I don't know, whatever. So that's what I'm working on. And yeah, that's plenty of things. As you know, I have other WIPs as well. I'm still sort of working on some of the other WIPs that I shared last time, but because I've been making so many different things, there's not really enough progress on each of them to share each of them each time. So these are the main things I've been working on this week. I sort of have a few WIPs a week that I'm working on until I get to a point where I absolutely have to finish something, or where I'm really close to finish something, and I wouldn't describe any of these as being really close to being finished. So today is sort of a special day. I'm actually recording this early in the morning because I'm going to do one of my favorite things today, which is, after this, I'm heading out to my parents. They live in a 55 plus community not too far away, and I'm going to do some pool knitting. So I don't know if anybody else does this, but I'm visiting my mom at their community pool, which is, you know, again, it's a 55 plus community, so there's not exactly children splashing or anything, which is wonderful. And I basically take my little shoebox container, and as long as there's not anything too heavy, like this is a bad example, I've got a bunch of yarn in here, but if I just have a small project, I just float this in the water and I stand there and knit. And that is one of the weirder things that I really like to do. I'm a person who, may be looking at me, you can tell I like to avoid the sun if at all possible, so I will be wearing sunscreen, and I have a beautiful wide brimmed hat, and I'll wear like a t-shirt over my bathing suit, not for modesty's sake, but for sun protection sake, and I only do it for like an hour. It's not like I spend a ton of time at the pool, but I thoroughly enjoy being in the pool, and I like to knit like a weirdo in the pool. So that's what I do, and it makes me happy. And if you're somebody who likes to knit in the pool, and I really hope that this like gets out there. I know some other people do it. I've seen a video on Instagram of somebody doing this very thing. In fact, that's kind of where I stole the idea. I already used those kind of Sterilite bins for my works in progress sometimes, but I literally stole this idea. So again, I did not create this, but yeah, I really like to do that. The thing you have to keep in mind is you have to have a lightweight project. You have to be willing for your project to potentially get wet. Like, worst case scenario, the thing capsizes and you end up with a wet project that you can't work on and you have to kind of dry out. So that means it may get chlorine in it. And the other thing you have to keep in mind, you're getting sun on the project. Okay, not a big deal if it's an hour here or there. And sunscreen. And I'm really big on sunscreen, and I use physical blockers like, zinc oxide sunscreen. So that can get a little bit weird feeling. So what I'm going to be working on is finishing some socks. So I'm going to darn some socks because as soon as those are finished, they're going to go in a bath anyway and get blocked. So I feel pretty good about that decision, that it's something that's lightweight, it's something that's pretty portable, and it's something that if it gets wet, oh no, I have to dry it before finishing the grafting stitch. Like, it's not a big deal. So I thought of that genius idea, and the sock part, again, not the bin part, did not invent that myself. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to enjoy that, and then also obviously, you know, bake some cookies and grill out with my dad for Father's Day. But that's my plan today, and that's why I look so informal right now, which is fine. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to update you about. So I hope that if you're somebody who likes being in the pool, you try some pool knitting. I am trying to make sure that other people know about this because I think it's awesome, and because I think that someday I'm going to live in a 55 plus community and I'm going to start a pool knitting circle. That's like my goal. So so let me know if you're interested in like 20 years or something. And for now, enjoy whatever knitting, crocheting you've been working on. Tour de Fleece is coming up, so my next episodes, I know I'm going to talk about spinning a lot. So I tried to kind of leave that out today. I'm sorry, spinners. I have been spinning, but I've been spinning the same singles for that dress that I'm working on for my mom. So it's not exciting spinning. It is the same thing over and over. During Tour de Fleece, I'm going to be spinning some awesome stuff that I have in my stash, and I'm hoping that I can get my mom's dress spin done before then, or at least done in like the first week of Tour de Fleece. So anyway, if you're new to spinning, look into it a little bit, but Tour de Fleece is where we spin when the Tour de France is going on. So they spin, we spin. So I'm gearing up for that, but in the meantime, I've been mostly working on that one project, which is, I think at this point, not exciting to anyone. So yeah, so that's all that's going on for me. And thank you for joining me today. And I will update you on hopefully some finished socks and some different projects again next week. Thanks.